Okay, perfect. So welcome everyone to today's Berkeley Pharma Tech Foundation Speaker Series seminar. I hope you all had a fun and relaxing 4th of July weekend. My name is Tiffany Terry, and I'm a volunteer with the foundation, and we're delighted to have you all join us today. So the Berkeley Pharma Tech Foundation is dedicated to increasing access for scientists and entrepreneurs in biotech through education, mentorship, and professional opportunities. Through this speaker series, we bring together industry leaders to share insights on cutting edge biotech innovation, entrepreneurship, commercialization, and career development. Our goal is to foster a community where scientists and builders learn from real experiences and grow together. So please follow us on LinkedIn and on Instagram for updates and stay tuned for upcoming seminars and conferences. Also, please feel free to reach out to Van Loen, the president of the foundation, to explore more ways to engage with our mission. So today we are excited to welcome our speaker, Doug Gooding. Doug is the managing director of the Emory Drug Development Fund, where he helps identify and invest in promising therapeutic opportunities emerging from academic research. He also serves as CEO of Drive Therapeutics and brings decades of experience as a venture investor, biotech executive, entrepreneur, and company builder. Throughout his career, Doug has helped launch, fund, and grow biotechnology companies, providing a unique perspective on how scientific discoveries become successful ventures. So please join me in welcoming Doug.
Great, thank you all. So I'll just go ahead and jump right in. So the theme that we're going to focus on here is building biotech ventures, specifically from academic innovation. That's kind of where I'm certainly focused on currently, and has been kind of a theme throughout the entirety of my career. Before we jump into the specifics, my primary message here, and this is a message for people who are in the earlier stages of their career and they're trying to figure out what they want to do, particularly as it relates to thinking about an entrepreneurial journey in some way, shape, or form. And my message to you is to be intentional. And that is obviously a broad statement that can mean a lot of things, but I will come back to that throughout some of these talking points and highlight areas where intention came in, because it's important to be intentional, because this is a hard business. This is a business of risk. This is a business of failure, and so it's extremely important to be intentional, because all those things are going to happen along the way, and being intentional in what you do allows you to be in position for an important component of this industry, which is luck or good fortune. And anyone who says that that's not a significant part of any entrepreneurial journey is being a bit arrogant and egocentric. And so I'll just leave it at that. So this is just a snapshot of my experience base, and again, along the lines of there's been a lot of what I've done along the way has been quite intentional. I started as a molecular biology undergrad at the University of San Diego, and originally thought about going to med school, then thought about doing the PhD route, since I got involved with undergrad academic research. But my parents paid for undergrad, and that was it. So I had to get out there. And so what I chose to do is to enter the workforce. My first job in San Diego was strategy and cloning systems. I was a cDNA library constructor, so an early stage molecular biology, and in a lot of respects, a trained monkey at the lab. I was known for having good hands, and this was a time when cDNA libraries were a lot more art form than they were kit based. Our biggest client was Insight. They brought me up there. That was the Bay Area at the time. That was the place I wanted to be. So that was an intentional move to go up there and take that role. I was given a significant amount of responsibility given my experience base. But what was most important, I was given access to the founding team and the entrepreneurial management that existed at Insight. And what that experience taught me was, wow, this is an exciting universe. I really want to be involved in managing, starting, founding entrepreneurial ventures. A big hole in my kind of knowledge base at that time was the business aspects of biotech. So I opted to go to business school at that point. I went to Keenan Flagler Business School at the University of North Carolina. And so that brought me back to the East Coast. I knew I wanted to remain in biotech. So unlike a lot of people who go to business school to kind of change what they do, I knew what I wanted to do. And I was very intentional about what I wanted to get from my MBA. I linked up with entrepreneurial groups based in North Carolina, particularly the Center for Entrepreneurial Development. That led me to an internship at Paradigm Genetics, which was a agricultural genomics biotech company based in RTP, venture-backed by groups such as Inner South Partners and Polaris Ventures out of Boston, amongst others. And again, I was very involved with the management team. I knew them previously, came in and helped them. They gave me incredible access. They raised multiple rounds of venture financing, and then ultimately went public. And I was had a front row seat on that ride and was very involved supporting the management team initially as an intern, and then in a full-time role from a business development perspective. Made relationships in the area, knew I wanted to eventually try and break into venture capital. That opportunity presented itself with the Aurora funds, and so I joined them and started my sort of investing career, so to speak. Aurora funds, similar to what I do now, we were a seed and Series A investor, spinning a lot of our deals out of Duke University. So that was my kind of start towards spinning things out from academic institutions. We did a lot of company formation, oftentimes first money in, and building teams and things of that nature. I was given the opportunity, since we were very hands-on. Regado Biosciences was a company that we were investing in, and so I was the initial seed funder and worked with the founding team, the inventors, to create the company. And so I was the interim CEO for a long period of time, and then once we did our Series A, was made the CEO, managed that through multiple rounds of investment, and took an optimized drug from the bench all the way into phase 2. And so that was quite a ride. From there, I ended up managing an Emory spinout called Altiris Therapeutics. It was an investment that was made by myself at the Aurora Funds. They had a sort of a switch in focus, so I stepped in to try and help them bring forth a molecule. That molecule ended up having some toxicity liabilities, and so that ended up not working out. From there, I licked my wounds a little bit from that one and decided to go to Knowles Intellectual Property Strategies. I was given the opportunity by Sherry Knowles, who's was my first attorney at Regado Biosciences, and so she allowed me to come work with them as a technical specialist and business advisor. I'm not a lawyer by any sense, but I was able to use. I wanted to really add to my tool belt. So again, this was intentional in the respect that I really wanted to get a strong underpinning in intellectual property, which of course is the lifeblood of all entrepreneurial ventures in life sciences. joined a team that I knew well, uh, developing aftermarket therapeutics called the company's called Drive Therapeutics, and so I'm managing that. We're bootstrapping that one through grant funding, and but my main focus is the Emory Drug Development Fund, where I'm the managing director. So a bit on the Drug Development Fund. So it is a $34.5 million fund. It is focused specifically on technologies that are underpinned by Emory University IP, and this is a therapeutics only fund. I'll touch on the entrepreneurial ecosystem at Emory to see where this all fits in. But our fund goals here, investment thesis, so to speak, is to provide strategic monetary and advisory support for Emory therapeutic projects. So I work with Emory innovators. A lot of this is either pre-company formation or in conjunction with company formation. This is a very outward-facing role. This is a small fund, so it's extremely important for us to syndicate as early as possible. So I spend a lot of time looking to build strategic relationships with early stage investors as well as industry. And then, of course, the ultimate goal here is to maximize returns to drive sustainability. This isn't a grant-based fund. We look to take equity and we look to drive returns both to the fund and to the university. The source of the money is important to understand. So Emory had a recent drug that was developed and then out-licensed, ultimately ending up in the hands of Merck. And it was a COVID era drug called Lagevrio or molnupiravir. And it had an emergency use authorization. Merck generated north of multiple billions of dollars in revenue around that. That brought in roughly across the years about $500 million in royalty income to the university. The president at the time was very forward thinking and said, "Hey, let's take some of this gains instead of like building buildings, which a lot of universities will choose to do. Let's reinvest in ourselves and particularly reinvest in our science." Emory has a long history of being very, very successful in antivirals, molnupiravir being the latest example. But before that, significant success in HIV and HCV drugs across two founders specifically, Dennis Leota and Raymond Shinazi, generating billions of dollars in income to the university. But the president said, "Hey, Emory's more than that. We're more than just antivirals." And this fund is basically to attempt to build on that and show the rest of the investing universe that Emory has a lot to offer from a therapeutic standpoint. We've done 5 deals to date. Well, 5 initial investments with some follow-on investments, and we have multiple deals in active diligence. So the things that I care about at the fund, making Emory therapeutic innovations less early. Early stage investing is a difficult universe and landscape to be in. People's definition of early stage can mean a lot of different things. In our case, early stage is oftentimes around a development candidate, but oftentimes it'll happen even before that when you're in a lead optimization type stage. Other people's definition of early is phase 1, so we're largely preclinical, and that's a very tough landscape right now. The investing universe is not hugely supportive of that in the here and now. A lot of that is based off of this is a cyclical business. And right now it's all about clinical assets, and in a lot of respects, clinical assets from China. All right, that's where you're seeing a lot of the significant funding events that are occurring. Early stage deals will always be done. There's always going to be an appetite for them, but uh, it's very oftentimes very specific to either an institution or to founders. And because a lot of the money is conglomerated in much less funds, a lot of the early stage deals are being done closer to the source. So these are spin outs up in the Northeast, out of Cambridge, and or the West Coast in San Francisco. So the lens that I look at, and not to denigrate Emory University at all, but we're in the Southeast in a landscape that isn't doesn't have a bunch of existing venture funds. So it's very, very important for us to bring things along to a stage where they'll be attractive to out of region investors. Um, so that's the less early part. Doing deals and syndicating deals is hugely important, as discussed, and the reasons why. I mean, this is a small fund. It's big for a university, but small in the grand scheme of things. And so it's important to understand kind of where you are in the landscape, and what else you're going to need to be ultimately successful. Larger goals are to increase the number of Emory-owned clinical assets, because again, that's I know for a fact that that's what the investing universe wants, is clinical assets. So that is my focus, is to try and move things along either with the fund, but that's a difficult thing to do just by ourselves. So we have to hustle to bring in a lot of third party money. We're an academic institution, so helping patients is the main focus of the university. So obviously that's the ultimate goal here. And again, no one at the university likes me to call this a venture fund, but my background is in venture investing. So so a big goal for me is making money, particularly for the university, and ultimately to expand the fund to allow us to continue on this mission that we've now been at for about 4 or 5 years. So this is just a snapshot of the Emory entrepreneurial ecosystem, and again, there's a lot of intention here. So Emory University as a whole has your kind of standard sorts of things. So an Office of Technology Transfer, people call it different things. But they are the ultimate clearinghouse for all innovation within the university. So they are the source of deal flow for my fund. But unlike a lot of universities, our fund falls under what's known as Emory Innovations Inc. It's a wholly owned LLC. The subsidiary of Emory University, but we are separate from the Office of Technology Transfer. Most translational or seed-based funds tend to fall under universities' tech transfer offices. We intentionally did not do it that way because of our focus on trying to find opportunities that are going to be most successful and have the highest opportunity for syndication. We need the ability to kind of say no, and so we aren't necessarily aligned with OTT, and so we're not beholden to do every deal. As a matter of fact, we say no to the vast majority of Emory researchers. Not that what they're doing isn't good, but I mean, there's a range of things. And again, that early thing comes into play there. But we have other sources of capital within the Center for New Medicines and Biolocity, which are more kind of grant-based, smaller amounts of money to try and prove concepts and whatnot. and hopefully to move things along to where they are at a stage to where they would be far enough along for my fund to consider. So within Emory Innovations Inc., there are three business units. The Drug Development Fund, which I manage. There's also a medical device and diagnostics healthcare IT component called the Emory BioFoundry Institute. And then there's Drive, which is basically operates as a wholly owned antiviral biotech. That was the source of molnupiravir initially. Then there are additional external resources within the state of Georgia that we rely on and our entrepreneurs rely on to add additional funds. So there's the Georgia Research Alliance, which is a state-based organization that does both grant-based and debt-based funding. And then Invest Georgia is a non-specialist venture fund that's focused on economic development, but is a resource of money for companies that are spun out that intend to stay in the state of Georgia. So briefly, we'll touch on kind of the venture capital process. I'm sure a lot of you have some founding on that, but I'll use this just to provide some level of context as far as those who are interested in either investing or in spinning things out. So this is kind of a venture capital investing step-by-step sort of scenario. The area where I focus the most of my attention on is deal sourcing and due diligence. Oftentimes, when it comes to terms, we focus on the types of instruments that we use mostly are safes. So term sheet negotiation are things that we will do, but oftentimes that is left to a third party who comes in and wants to price a deal. The other aspects, and this is important from a company perspective, are all the other things that underpin the spin-out company. So the legal docs around the investment itself, and of course the company, the investment and funding of itself. One of the things that we as a fund, and I do, and it's very important, oftentimes there's not management for these, and so I help a lot to mentor founders who aren't necessarily as versed in the drug development process. Oftentimes they're the early stage innovators who are coming up with molecules, but don't necessarily understand all of the aspects of drug development. So we step in and help quite a bit as it relates to that. And again, our goal is to continually invest along multiple rounds of financing to the extent that we're able to due to fund size. So due diligence, this is just a snapshot of the types of things that I look at when I'm evaluating opportunities within there. So management team, when it exists, that is obviously something that we spend a lot of time and focus on. But the scientific team and the founding team is hugely important at the stage of which we're investing. So again, we're looking for the types of PIs who are therapeutically focused, entrepreneurially focused, and are looking in areas that are commercially relevant, and that's and who are doing things that are novel, but at the same time commercially relevant. And it's tough to kind of thread that needle sometimes. Oftentimes there's a lot of Me Too type work that occurs at universities, and that tends to be of less interest to the broader investment landscape. And then you juxtapose that with true novelty, and the things that you run into there is then proof of concept. And oftentimes who you are and where you're published matters, particularly to a lot of the large funds. That's their, again, definition of early is to do like Bob Langer's 50th deal, and that's certainly not a bad strategy, but that's not the universe of which we live in. So again, we need to kind of thread that needle where we're novel, but then of course the bar is higher for us for proof of concept. So that's a significant area of focus, and oftentimes where a big part of the early capital that we put in goes to help support. Um, Looking at the competitive landscape and differentiation is hugely important here, because again, this is not the venture world is not interested in Me Too. They're interested in innovation. So what's out there, we need to show differentiation in some way, shape, or form. Understanding the development path is hugely important. That again is not something that's inherent in most university academic type founders. So we look to bring some of that experience and expertise, largely through third parties more often than not. Funding strategy, financials, and all of that just isn't necessarily inherent for most academic founders. So we spend a lot of time helping people, helping founders build out things like budgets, timelines, and milestones, doing things in a way, again, that's very intentional. And I push this on the founders quite a bit because I've been on both sides of this. I've been on the entrepreneur side where I get diligenced by venture funds, and I've been on the venture side where I'm diligencing opportunities. And it's good to have kind of both of those sets of experiences because it just helps to know kind of what people care about, what people expect to see at various stages of development. Of course, one of the most important aspects is the intellectual property that's underlying the opportunity, and so we spend a lot of time there. Um, I have my wife is an intellectual property attorney, and again, as is my former boss, and both have been strong mentors to me in kind of again building out that intellectual property understanding and tool belt because it is the most important aspect of these ventures at the end of the day. And then again, understanding the financial ramifications. So how do we make money on the investments that we make? So that's a very important component of diligence here. So thinking about starting a company, I know Keith Aaron spoke recently, and he gave his experience as a company builder. I'll just give some highlights that if you're thinking about doing it, things to think about. And again, focusing on the legal aspects because again, it's rare that that's something that's natural to university type inventors slash founders. And it's very important to become a sophisticated consumer of legal services or align with somebody who is, because these are very important aspects of company formation that you need to have. You need a corporate attorney who specializes in company formation and venture financings, which is hugely important. You need an intellectual property attorney who represents the company, not just the owner of the IP. The university has their own attorneys that manage things, but strategy of the company versus strategy of the university doesn't always align, and you need to make sure that you have representation that is managing the interests of the company as it relates to the intellectual property. And you will also be looking to develop your own intellectual property outside of the university and the license. So having your own attorney is hugely important in support of that. It's important to shop around. You're looking for quality, but it's also quality that you can afford. And you want someone who's going to actually be an advisor to you and kind of help you along your journey. And just know, I mean, name brands are preferred, and name brands are often expected for established funds. but you pay for that name brand. And it's also important to know that there are bad lawyers at good firms. And so aligning with someone who is going to be a true partner with you. So fit here and responsiveness matters, especially in the earliest of stages. And just know that as your stage and needs evolve, you can make changes along the way. And an important thing to note is that these attorneys represent the company, not you. So don't. So if you're a founder or a CEO, it's important to understand that. They're your friends and they support you, but they represent the company. So some questions to think of when you're looking to start something. So who's the founding team? Who's going to serve as the CEO? What is the source of the foundational IP that the company is founded on? Does a license exist? What are the terms of that license? What are the terms of that license market? And these are things that you're going to learn along the way, particularly if you're in the driver's seat for negotiating that license. This is where we see a lot of problems with university spinouts, or I see a lot of problems with university spinouts, including my own institution, because oftentimes the university is out to get the best financial terms that they can get. But just understand that this is a continuum, and the university is the starting point in most of these cases. But there's a lot of people along the way who need to make money, and so the license needs to be market in term, such that investors will want to put money into the endeavor. And if they don't see the opportunity to make money themselves, then they're just going to move on. So it's important to get that right. A big question that a lot of you who are either inventors or scientific founders have to ask yourself is, will you leave the university for an operational role in the company, and what role would that be? It's an important decision. To me, it's the difference between being an inventor and being an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur makes that jump. An inventor stays at the university. Either are fine. There's no judgment one way or the other. There are some inventor / scientific founders who can make that leap and do it quite well. And there are a lot who I've seen who cannot. So again, be intentional, understand your strengths, your weaknesses, also understand your risk tolerance. Part of the reasons why a lot of people don't want to leave the university is it's a safe place more often than not, particularly once you get tenure. So leaving that to a startup that lives in 2-year increments, which tends to be the time frame of any sort of funding event, there's a lot of risk there, and your situation may not be something that supports that level of risk. So understand your risk tolerance and understand what you want to do there. And if you aren't going to make that jump, that's when the questions of who is the founding team and who will serve as CEO, who's going to now basically take your invention and look to operationalize that and develop it. It's important to the extent that you can to have a hand in that, because it's important, and oftentimes that gets done wrong. Oftentimes, a lot of early stage CEOs just aren't that good. So in management teams can be a challenge. It's one of the main focuses that most investment firms have is who is that team. So think about that in the context of when you're making these decisions, and know that you don't necessarily need someone in a full-time role, particularly at the earliest of stages. And oftentimes you're better served to go at consultants, because your needs aren't significant enough to justify a full-time role, again, depending on what the position is and what the stage of the opportunity is and how much money has been raised to date. It's usually not until you raise proper amounts of money that it's really necessary to have a fully fleshed management team. So don't saddle your early stage opportunity with a CEO just because you've been told that the CEO is the most important thing, because oftentimes that can be the decision that means that you don't get funding, which is not obviously the outcome that people want. And then think about again: do you need lab? Do you need office facilities and things of that nature? I like to focus on all of my historical and current ventures. The mantra that I always is to make the nickels sing, and that's what I was taught. Uh, we're not here to necessarily build infrastructure. Again, I don't have an economic development sort of scenario, so I don't having a company of 50 people in the state of Georgia. That'd be nice, but that's not something that I necessarily need to do. So think about that when you're starting your company, where you're starting your company, and what your needs are at the earliest of stages. So, how long do you want to leave for Q&A? Because I was going to maybe tell a story or two about my portfolio, but you let me know what you think makes sense from a timing perspective.
10 to 15 minutes is fine, Doug.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what I'll do is I'll touch on a couple of opportunities within my portfolio, discuss kind of how these all came about, and what their main focus is. And the first one that I'll touch on is a company called Alonix. I chose this because I think Tiffany had some early stage involvement in this herself. But the Emory investigators are Eric Ortland and John Calvert. Eric is in the Department of Biochemistry. He's the vice chair at Emory, and he's collaborated with John. John's a big animal model guy, and their focus has been this target called liver receptor homolog 1. And so they have agonists to treat inflammatory bowel disease. So IBD is a very, very significant pharma-focused market. This was, again, a very intentional move on my part, thinking about what I want from a kind of a therapeutic breakdown within my portfolio. Again, I need to think about things in the context of what is going to be commercially viable long term, what is pharma going to be ultimately interested in, or big biotech is going to be ultimately interested in. In the case here, we had a co-investor out of the gate, Orange Grove Bio, and more importantly, we had an initial relationship between the founders lab and Eli Lilly. And Eli Lilly has had a long interest in this target, LRH1, both internally initially, and they were unfortunately quite unsuccessful in developing molecules around that target, and that was the driver and the kind of the special sauce of this opportunity is Eric's a big AI-based drug discovery guy and crystal structure sort of scientist, and he was able to find a specific pocket within the target that was much more amenable to a small molecule sort of screening effort. And so he was very successful, and along with John, they were able to show proof of concept in IBD and then Crohn's animal models. And that made Lilly even more interested, and we created a syndicate that included Orange Grove Bio, Eli Lilly, and the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation provided some non-dilutive capital along with that. This is actually an older slide. I'm up now to $4.5 million of invested capital, which is a big swing for the fund, but we made significant progress, and we're very hopeful that we can sell this company. Lilly is an obvious choice, but we are not relying on them as the sole outcome. But with the data package that we've developed and the work that's ongoing, we feel pretty good that this could potentially represent an early exit for the fund. And so this All of this has been over a span of about 2.5 years, and of course there was work that predated all of our investing collective involvement. Um, but a very good story from an entrepreneurial perspective. A person like Eric is hugely important to this endeavor. A big part of the funds that I've put in has actually gone to his lab, and he's been very active in a lot of respects, working as a CSO while still kind of within and keeping his academic role. Orange Grove Bio is a sort of a specialist investment investor. Their model is to take um, and provide kind of entrepreneurial experience and services. So Peter Alf came from Orange Grove, and he serves as the CEO of the company. And there's a number of aspects of Orange Grove that is involved in the early stage development of these molecules as well. So it's been a very good story, nice mix between experienced investors with a very intentional exit event in mind. And I'll touch on a second one, and then open it out for questions. This is an interesting one from a university standpoint, in that all the investment that has been made to date has been pre-company. So this is something that my fund will do. It's an interesting model. We're spending a lot of time figuring out how best to do this. Most companies or most funds such as mine, they will only invest post a license. We like the flexibility to invest because oftentimes companies are formed too early, and if they're left to go out and raise money and are unsuccessful, after a year or two, they become very shop worn, and people become uninterested in them because they feel that they've heard the story, and if significant progress hasn't been made, no one's going to look to invest in that. So this is an example of one where we decided to bring things along as far as we possibly can. In this case, we have a very reasonable chance and should get to an IND filing by the end of this year based on the capital that my funds provided, as well as some additional non-dilutive or pretty significant non-dilutive funding that has existed. And this is one where, although this is run out of the founder's lab, we utilize significant amounts of third parties. So CROs, both from a development standpoint and from a manufacturing standpoint. These are PD4 inhibitors, which serve as CFTR activators for treating upper and lower airway diseases. So Eric Soicher, the main founder, is a big cystic fibrosis person. This is non-CF type indications that we're looking at, and looking at molecules that activate CFTR. So the indications that we're looking at are both upper and lower airway diseases. On the upper airways, it's chronic rhinosinusitis, and then for
you
lower,
guys really want to have
it's your more standard venture-based things like COPD, non-CF bronchiectasis. And so I've really focused on trying to drive them towards pipeline development. Upper airway is not hugely venture interesting in the grand scheme of things, but it's a great proof of concept for the molecules. But a lot of my money has gone towards formulating, because these are inhaled drugs. So a big focus of mine is manufacturability. These are things that, again, most academics don't think about because you tend not to be able to write papers on things like tox studies and manufacturing. So that's a lot of what my money goes towards is things of that, because again, our focus is to get to an IND stage and get things into the clinic. And a lot of these things are not the types of things that are done within a university setting, but in our case, we use outsourced CROs to do the majority of the work. We're in the process of now spinning it out, starting the company, because I do want the company to be the IND holder and to be the sponsor of the clinical studies. But this is one where if we knock this out, it'll be an interesting story in that this type of thing doesn't tend to happen all that much within a university setting. Things tend to get spun out long before they reach this stage. So time will tell as to whether this was a good one, but it's at least it's interesting and fun. So I'll leave it at that, and given where we are, and would be glad to entertain uh, any questions.
Thank you so much, Doug. If anyone has a question, please go ahead and unmute yourself or raise your hand, and you can ask Doug a question. You can go ahead, Sue.
Thank you. Very, very interesting, Doug. I don't have an affiliation with Emory yet, but your program is very compelling, especially the intentionality. I already have a patent on a drug candidate, a huge unmet need. Um, is there a way we can engage with Emory to help move it forward? We have a big pharma that wants to license from us if we get into phase 2 data.
Yeah, I mean, so unfortunately, our the primary kind of anchor point of our investment thesis is the need for the foundational IP to be Emory University IP. So if it isn't an Emory founder or an Emory invented sort of IP sort of scenario, then those aren't opportunities that we tend to look at. It's unfortunate, but it's I mean basically it's the mandate of the fund. It's not um, it's just
Okay.
the limitation that exists with these types of university-based funds more often than not.
All right. There is additional IP that can be developed.
Yeah, I mean, so we will in certain cases consider opportunities. Particularly, this happens when uh, inventors or PIs come from a different institution to Emory. Oftentimes, certainly entrepreneurial ones will bring their experiences in IP from their previous institutions and continue to develop once at Emory. So we will consider investments in that scenario. We have not yet, but we would consider if there were a collaboration that existed such that there was the potential for Emory-based IP. That's something that could be considered. We've not done any. We have no examples of that yet within the pipeline, but would be kind of the farthest afield that we would consider as it relates to that.
Okay. Thank you.
Can I ask a
Anyone else?
question?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Hi, Doug. Thanks so much for the talk. Very helpful with the step through. Um, I'm actually very curious about how, because you said this is affiliated with Emory University. I'm actually very curious about like how somebody who's an inventor out unaffiliated with a university can search and possibly figure out other funding mechanisms that obviously you started this fund to fill a need. Um, we're in the Bay Area. There's obviously a lot of things going on, but like for somebody who's uninitiated, it seems very daunting. I like what you said about like finding a corporate lawyer, IP lawyer to kind of represent your company needs. But before that happens, are there other types of like step through guides on if you don't even have the patent yet, what you should do here? And if you do have the patent, what should you do next?
Yeah, I mean, and so um, I want to make sure that we're all kind of speaking the same language as it relates to patents, because oftentimes um, these are patent filings that are in various stages of prosecution. Obviously, the ultimate goal is to have issued patents, but oftentimes investment occurs long before that, and which is fine too. If you're affiliated within a university, most universities, I mean, so Emory there's some aspects of what we're doing that is unique, but I'm not going to suggest that Emory is totally unique. There are many universities who have internal funding mechanisms that are similar to ours. Maybe this is larger scale than most, but there tend to be a number of opportunities at a lot of generally universities where there is significant innovation. There exists some usually multiple sources of of capital, some dilutive, some non-dilutive. So understanding your institution's entrepreneurial ecosystem is the first step that I would look at, because oftentimes we don't we don't all do the best of job of communicating our existences. Yeah, the joke that I had when I first started with the fund is that we were one of the best kept secrets on campus, um, and uh, and so we're trying to now be intentional in letting the entrepreneurial ecosystem and presenting the entrepreneurial ecosystem as a whole to the institution, so that people are fully aware of all the different, because there's more than just my fund. There's a lot that pre-exists and predates the fund that is available to Emory researchers. So long story short, I would do some digging to understand what exists within your institution. And then the other aspect that I would consider, if you're not necessarily affiliated with an academic institution, there oftentimes are state-based organizations. So in the state of Georgia, for example, there's the Georgia Research Alliance. I'm well versed in the North Carolina entrepreneurial ecosystem as well. The North Carolina Biotech Center also offers significant amounts of funding. That is, it tends to, oftentimes state-based funding is debt-based, but it does convert to equity ownership. And oftentimes their money does come with some strings, because oftentimes they have a, sort of a community developed based mindset. Like they want North Carolina based companies, they want North Carolina based employees. Same with Georgia. But those are oftentimes a very good source of your earliest capital.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone else have a question for Doug? Chat here. Go ahead, Casey.
Doug, hello. This is Casey Carroll. A question about the hiring policies, approach that you use when you're moving beyond the founders or beyond that C-suite, that first hiring round of leaders. Are there any insights that you can offer?
Um, so I'll speak to my own experience as as a company founder, which was Regato. I served as the interim CEO, but I drove kind of the hiring strategy. And again, initially, ours was a strategy of relying significantly upon third-party consultants, and we tried to do things as lean as humanly possible. And so that's where I've seen the most success. And for small funds such as mine, that's a business model that's hugely important, but it's not is not necessarily the model for your arch or NEAs of the world who have significant money to put to play. So we got to an IND on 2 FTEs, so myself and the CSO, and then we outsourced everything else. We did then start to build an internal team once we raised a pretty significant Series A. But that we're hugely intentional in who we brought in. Fit was massively important to us, and I can't underscore the importance of that. So finding people who kind of share your vision, both kind of in the science itself, but kind of in the company itself. I mean, you're building. I mean, not that. I mean, in a perfect world, companies are kind of like families, but in a good way, not the dysfunctional way. But so it's important because making bad choices can sink things or cause problems that then need to be solved. So it's very important to be very intentional in who you hire, and focus on fit more so than pedigree or skill set. Because not to say that CMOs are a dime a dozen, but if you bring in the wrong CMO, it could cost you your job as the CEO.
Thank you.
Tiffany, I think you're on mute.
I apologize. Sorry about that. I was just saying thank you so much, Doug. And on behalf of the Berkeley Pharma Tech Foundation, thank you for joining us and for sharing your time, experience, and insights. And we especially appreciate you sharing the stories behind the Emory Drug Development Fund portfolio companies and for sharing the steps and strategies that researchers should be aware of as they're considering making this transition from the academic, research into, actually developing a company and commercializing their technology. But before we conclude, I also would like to invite everyone to our upcoming in-person event, Programmable Biology, AI, Synthetic DNA, and the Future of Therapeutic Discovery. So this special event will bring together some distinguished founders, researchers, investors, and industry leaders for a panel discussion exploring how advances in AI, synthetic biology, and next generation biotech platforms are transforming therapeutic discovery. And that will be followed by a networking reception to connect with others in the life sciences ecosystem. So we hope you'll be able to join us. And so lastly, thank you to everyone who attended today's session. We look forward to seeing you at our next speaker series session and at our upcoming in-person event. Have a wonderful day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.